Welcome to the Menadonia Discourse. I'm your host Sim, and this podcast is all about the way of changing one's life. And in today's episode, I'm joined by Arno Schurmans. We have a history from when I was living in Belgium, where we got into the same type of style of training, and we talk about this as well, of course. So we go into different things like his journey and his evolution as a coach, and just like me, we've gone through a similar journey of how things have evolved for us, of where we started out from, and then how we evolved personally and professionally. So he talks about the big changes he made in his life, like moving to Canada, like becoming a personal trainer, like doing his education and the courses and the studying, and then making his own style of coaching that is more holistic. So like it integrates many more things. So we get into a lot of different topics about focus and about, let's say, manifestation, or about creating the desired environment and creating internal and external for our life, for the life we want to experience. So it's a pretty, we go deep on a lot of different things. So I hope you guys enjoy the conversation. And without further ado, here's my conversation with Arno Schurmans.
Perfect.
Okay, so we are live. So today I'm joined by Arno Schurmans. So thank you for being here, bro.
I'm very excited. Thank you too.
So I know for those, I mean, maybe some people on my network will know you, and for the people that don't, he's a coach, like a little bit more in the, or very similar to what I'm doing. So lifestyle embodiment, life coaching through the means of holistic means, basically, right? So much more
Yeah,
holistic thinking, right? Integration, as I would like to call it, in a multi-dimensional approach, right? So if we
exactly.
think about like the triumvirate thing, like mind, spirit, body, right? So that's more your thing and my thing, right? And that's also one of the main things as to why I wanted to have you on today, because
Yeah,
I mean we've gone through very similar journeys, and we work with a lot of the same stuff, and we always have really good conversations when we get to meet up, and we're definitely
totally.
vibing on this that same frequency.
Yeah,
So yeah, man, it's a pleasure to have you, and let's just jump right in. So tell me a
perfect. I'm
little bit
excited.
about growing up in Belgium, because I'm suppose you didn't really grow up that far from where I lived, right? Edegem, Antwerpen, so you're from
Yeah,
that
I
vicinity,
was
right?
exactly. I was born and raised in Antwerp. I had a pretty regular childhood. I had everything that I need to have as a young child. Yeah, I just grew up in the little city Antwerp. To be honest, from a young age, I already felt that Belgium wasn't really my place. That's another story to dive in later, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, I was always more interested, even though I was living in the city, I was always interested in being very active. I was always playing outside,
Mhm.
and I always had a pull towards nature, being
Mhm.
outside, playing outside, being in touch with nature, the woods, the garden, uh, but also just easy being outside, like playing games outside, playing basketball,
Mhm.
um, just playing sports outside. Uh, and then on the other side, I also had some creativity in me. I was always either working with kind of like natural materials, like making something with wood or with clay or drawing.
Mhm.
So I had do those two perspectives. Either I was
Mhm.
very drawn to being active, physically
Mhm.
active, or either doing something creative. So
Mhm. Yeah, man. Awesome. Did your parents put you in any sports? I mean, like, team sports? Because you say you play some basketball and some soccer, which is kind of normal for us, right? Because we have all these,
yeah,
playgrounds where we can.
yeah. I had two things. I had on one side I had my mother, which was
Mm,
she's very creative.
mm,
Like she was always drawing, making music, writing out poetry.
mm,
She was either always drawing or writing something. So from there, she learned me how to kind of get away with the pencil, learning how to
mm,
draw, how to paint. Um, and then on my father's side, he was totally opposite from my mother. My mother was more spiritual. My father was more of the rational type of guy,
mm,
very hardworking. and he was also a football coach actually, or soccer coach, however you want
Mm-hmm.
to call it. um, and I wasn't really into soccer. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
soccer was on TV all day long, sports channel up all day long.
Mm-hmm.
So I have older brothers and sisters. So one of my brother already played football or soccer, and of course, as my father being a coach, he wanted me to play soccer. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I played it for one day, and I said to my father, like, yeah, this is not for me. I came there, he bought me like everything. He
Uh,
bought me the outfit, the shoes, and I came there, was like, my soul was like being crumbled. Like, what am I doing here? It was not my
mm-hmm.
type of sport.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so eventually, I had the choice of doing my own thing. I started climbing first. I did some
Nice.
well, like wall climbing for 4 years. Did a few competitions, but it was not never really that competitive. It was more for fun. I
Mm-hmm.
was actually really good in it. I had a light body, a strong body from a young age. I had strong tendons, so I was always, it felt good. It felt more home for me. Even
Mm-hmm.
though I was, funny thing was, I was a bit scared of heights, but that helped me to kind of conquer that.
Yeah.
and and then I did lots of different things. I even did like 1 year of gymnastics. I did
Mm-hmm.
1 year of, like, not maybe the most athletic game. I did like ping pong, more as for fun
Uh-huh.
as a kid. And eventually, I also joined the Boy Scouts, and then a few years later, I got into something more professional, like more competitive, I would say. That
Mm-hmm.
was basketball, but I also only did that for maybe like 1 year. I loved playing on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
um, and then when I started playing for a team, like the fun kind of went away from me, and I always did it for fun. I just loved. For
Mm-hmm.
me, like, sport is more about the game itself, is also like the connections, and I felt on the street there's more freedom to talk, get to know
Mm-hmm.
people,
Yeah.
play a bit more rougher, like not so much rules.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of my athletic history.
Yeah, man. And at what age did you get into strength training? Because if I recall correctly, you started lifting weights before you got into calisthenics.
Yeah, I actually started lifting pretty late. I think
Mm,
I was it was after school when I started, like, going to in my studies as a I did product design, and then I
mm,
think I was like around 20 years old. I think I
mm,
started firstly training. A friend of mine was doing strength training, um, and I was just really attracted to do it because I was always the skinny guy, super light, super skinny. So it was like, I saw also my older brother
mm.
training. So it was like, one day I really want to start training, but everybody was always like, even my family, like, oh, watch out, because you're still too young. You're not gonna
Uh,
grow anymore. The classical.
yeah, it's
So
such
I
a
was like, oh,
problem in Belgium, that
yeah,
whole like belief, right? Because it keeps guys
exactly,
like us really far away from weights for a long time.
exactly. So I started pretty late. Um, but I think from the first day I stepped in there, I was addicted to lifting heavy. I just
Mm,
That was my zone. I always felt physically quite strong naturally. So for me, it was like, my let go. So
mm,
I did that for a few years, and I quickly evolved. I mean, quickly. If I look back at it now, it took a lot of work, but I
mm,
quickly got pulled into the aesthetical side of fitness, and came in there for only
mm.
um, conquering the skinny boy that was in there. And it took me a few years to switch from like 58 kilos to, I think, 92. I think it took maybe like 3 years, but like
That's
a
a big
ridiculous,
change.
yeah, that was a ridiculous amount of food, training, all the
Mhm,
supplements I could find, always natural for sure. I mean,
mm,
supplements are not really natural, but I mean, like, in the legal terms.
mhm,
And I was the natural type of guy anyways. I never believed in any of that shit. But
mhm.
yeah, I I did everything to gain weight, and eventually a few years later, I looked at myself like, what the hell is going on? I was just like a big ball of muscle, but like strong exteriorly, but like internally I was like crumbling away. And
Uh,
that's when I actually started shifting, not only in the sense of like physically, but also mindset, spirituality. I think it
mhm,
was maybe around 26, so that's almost 6 years later, if you see my training
mhm.
journey. um yeah, and then you grow older, wiser, you read more, you see more, and then eventually I shifted to bodyweight stuff, more calisthenics.
Mm.
and that's where I even felt more at home. So yeah, I did that for a long time. I think that's where we met
Yeah,
also,
that
on one
is
of the
where we met, which was,
exactly.
I mean, like a lot of other encounters, like pretty random, right? So
Yeah,
this is like a, yeah, like a, what are they called? Like it's not, it's a street workout park, sort of,
yeah,
like, and that was pretty late in my journey, let's say, because I started training at like Fort 5 in ADM,
yeah,
which had, like, for people that again have never been there, like it's this something called like a, it's like a sort of a, it's part of a course, right? Which means like you
yeah,
have all these different stations. So none of your appliances are in the same space. So it's like your
yeah.
pull-up bars are one place, your dip bars are in another place. And I was campaigning, and I mean that in earnest with the word. I was campaigning with the mayor of Edegem. Like I was like, come on, man, just put a park here for the love of God. Like it just doesn't make sense
Awesome.
that I need to
Yeah,
go around this place like all the time and for everyone else, And then there was another place in Edegem, on the border with Wilrijk, where they might put one and blah blah blah, but
yeah,
it never really came off of the ground. But then coincidentally, another place in Wilrijk where we met, like they put a park there, and I was like, well, basically I was like, what the fuck? why what why is it
what?
over there? Like, why is it
Yeah,
not like here? But in any
yeah,
case, so one of my friends told me, because that's like 2013 or 2014, actually, I
yeah,
think so, in the summer of 2014. And I was like, all right, good. Like, it's not like I'm gonna go here every day, because I was like, bringing weights and stuff like that, and
yeah, yeah,
on my in my backpack on my bike with 20 kilos extra. Like, it's then you don't want to do that entire bike ride,
yeah,
right? But in any case, so like my friend was like, all right, let's go there. And then we met, or they met you first, and then I met you.
yeah,
And the funny thing is, like, there was such a weird rumor where someone was like, "Oh, we think he's a cop," and I was like,
yeah.
"What?
Yeah,
Like,
it's so
and
funny.
doing what? Like, making sure that we're not dealing drugs or something? Or that, like, why would
Yeah,
that be the case?"
yeah.
I really
It's
didn't get where that came from.
yeah, it's quite funny that you said, because that happened a lot of time. Like there's something about like having a beard and being bald that people think like you're some kind of undercover guy working
Exactly.
there. It was maybe the look on my face that I looked a bit severe or whatever, too serious.
Uh,
But that happened honestly like a lot of time. And the thing is like I mean, a lot of people with a different nationalities train there outside for sure.
yeah.
There's not a lot of, I think it's maybe even less Belgians who train outside than other nationalities. Most Belgians stay in the gym.
Mm.
So there's a huge amount of culture there training, and they were always or not. I just felt it. And
Mm.
then the funny thing was, even I think half a year ago, I got that look again. I was like, let's see what I can do. So I came there, but it was of course also the COVID situation. So I came there. I was like, okay, guys, passports, please. And the guys were all like in shock, like what's happening? It was like, I'm just kidding, guys. Don't worry. They were like, you motherfucker. So it's also fun to play with that for sure.
Yeah,
It's
man,
funny that
it,
people
it
get
was
shocked.
super weird. I mean, I don't know if because we were slightly younger than you, and like it's not like we're that much younger,
Yeah.
but maybe because of no beard gains, that might be the thing. But we quickly got to talking, right? And I was like, I don't even know how I approached that. I was like, what do you work with? And then you just told me whatever you were doing back
Yeah.
then, which was more like marketing
Yeah, I
and
was working more in
design.
branding and design.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
right. And then I was like, all right, so either this is like the cleverest undercover trick in the world to like get some guys. I mean, where everyone that you would meet there is just training anyway, so it would be the most unlikely drug dealer spot in the world. But you never know. But I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. Like this, so whoever spread that rumor is a retard, which was one of my friends, basically, or acquaintances anyway.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, this guy's really cool. And then we got to, talking more. And I was like, all right, like, this is, interesting, right? Because when I saw you, like, you were strong already doing a lot of the more advanced moves like front levers, where a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us were like, bro, what?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like how? And you're like, oh, this and that. I was like, oh, okay, great.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of it was also, you were just pretty relaxed and mature, like a lot of
Yeah.
the kids training there. It's, like we need to out to do each other, and there wasn't really that vibe with you, and I
Yeah.
liked that. So yeah, man, we hit it off.
Yeah, it's true. We felt like we instantly connected for sure. And that proved itself along the line even more. So
Yeah, because then it wasn't actually that long after that I moved to Norway. And
yeah.
then, if I'm not mistaken, the year after or something, you moved to Canada.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's true. It's
Because
true.
I
It
moved in
was in
2015, and it wasn't
exactly.
because I
I moved in
remember.
2000 yeah, 16. I lived there from 2016 until 2017 in
Mm,
Vancouver. Yeah,
yeah.
true.
How did that come to be? Because I mean, at least Norway is in Europe, right? So that's not that big of a stretch. But for a lot of Belgians, I mean, first of all, for the international people, Belgians in general are like house mice.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
like to stay in their own little zone and not even move in Belgium. It's like they want to stay
Yeah,
in the same
totally.
region, right? So moving to Canada then is like,
Yeah. The thing was, I did a lot of jobs, a lot of different jobs, also when I was studying. But eventually, I decided to. I did my bachelor's degree. I did my master's degree the first year, and then the second year, before I moved to Canada, I had a long trip through Europe with a friend, and it really made me realize, like, what am I doing? Like,
mm,
I'm doing these studies, but I'm just not enjoying it anymore, and I feel
mm,
like I don't need that paper anymore to do what I want to do, because I always had the feeling of doing something else with my life for sure. That was a bit unsure back then, but so I still, because I quit my studies and I was working as a bartender during my studies. Okay, I said, like, I quit my studies and I became a full-time bartender, whatever. I
mm,
was in that job for a long, long, long time.
mm,
Um, while still training, of course. But eventually I realized, like, in that situation, they're like, what am I doing here again? Why am I working as a bartender while I have such more potential?
mm,
So I was also still doing some freelance brand design, branding, learning to build websites on the side, and that kind
mm,
of like started rolling better. And eventually I took the step in becoming more of an independent in design,
mm,
which worked kind of in the beginning, but never really worked properly. I had a lot of ups and downs there.
mm,
So again, I was again there like, what am I doing? Like, I want to do something more with health, with sports. So why
mm,
don't I look for an opportunity that does both? I can combine my creativity, my branding
mm,
side, and something that can, like, maybe propel me more into the trajectory of doing something in sports.
mm,
And I always wanted to be more in nature, and somehow I got attracted to working in Canada. I saw this company called Lululemon. It's kind of like a Nike or an Adidas from the Canadian side. It's more
mm,
like nature, yoga,
mm,
bodyweight training based. But
mm,
for me, it seemed like, hey, this might be an opportunity. And it's not per se that I like the brand, but I just love their mentality of, like, as a company. And
mm,
I heard some people working there that they're really open to support people to also follow their dreams. So if they're ready to
mm,
go and work for another company, it's fine. They will support them even.
mm,
So um, I decided, okay, I always wanted to be in a situation where I could, like, work abroad.
mm,
But financially, we never had the means at home when I was studying.
mm,
Couldn't go and just go and live where I wanted to study in another country. That was just not an opportunity or possibility back then in my home. So I was a
mm,
bit older then. I said, like, I'm gonna do it on my own. Eventually, I decided, hey, let's apply for Canada. Who knows? After months and months of waiting, filling out all the paperwork, I got a good to go.
mm.
So I left with absolutely nothing. I had like 2,000 euros on my bank account, which I actually borrowed from my sister just to prove that I had enough money to go over the border. I had no job, but I just had the paper like, hey, you can go to Canada. And I was like, I got this. So I went there. Of course, my spirit like crumbled, like, oh shit, I'm actually alone out here, blah, blah, blah.
Mm,
I kept myself very strong the first few weeks. And I did had a little of a job for an agency in Belgium.
mm,
Uh, I was like their brand logo designer, especially. The first job went super well, but the longer I stayed in Canada, there was just too much going on in my head. I like the stress of finding a proper job there, of being
Mm.
able to pay my rent, super expensive rent. Everything was super expensive there. And there was like this battle, like I need money, but I want to explore. I'm in a new place. There was like all these
Mm.
impulses, experiences happening. And eventually the job with the agency didn't go well. My work was, I wasn't delivering good work because I was stressed. I was just pushing myself too hard. They didn't pay me. All these different kind of stuff happened. My
Mm.
my laptop broke, my phone broke. um, I started working for a gym there. They didn't pay me. I started working for a tech startup which was building like this kind of app, uh, and with all these promises like, hey, you get a part of the company. I really got this
Uh,
paperwork like you get a piece of the company. We're gonna pay you in a few months. They didn't pay me. Like a whole bunch of stuff happened there in a very
uh,
short amount of time. A lot of lessons in a few months. And
mm.
eventually I came to a point like, fuck, I have to make a choice here. I got to put my ego aside and start from scratch somewhere else in something that I
Mm.
really want to do.
Mm.
So even though I applied several times for that company I was talking about, I never ever got in. I applied like maybe six or seven times.
Mm.
Eventually, I got an interview after a long time, after changing my website, my portfolio a million times. I got the call like, hey, you have a meeting. I came in there. Um, I had an amazing interview, and then
Mm.
she said like, you're going to the first round. We'll go have a second interview with the team leader. I had
Mhm.
an interview, and I felt immediately there that the conversation was not on point. I mean, she loved my work, but she's like, hey, you've been a freelance forever. We need somebody with team experience. But I was like, hey, but I want to learn how to work in a team, you know.
Yeah.
But eventually, it didn't go through.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I finally saw another company which was called RYU, which stands for Respect Your Universe, and it was kind of like also a sports company.
Mhm.
And I thought like, hey, fuck, I need money, so I needed to make a choice. So I just started working in their retail store. I thought like maybe this could be an opportunity
Mhm.
to grow into the company. Who knows, as a brand designer someday. I started working there, folding clothes,
Mhm.
working in the store, like selling clothes. But eventually, it was a super fun company. I had a lot of fun, and people asked. I got a request also a few months later to actually do some design work, but I felt like, hey, you know what? Let's leave the design story behind. I just felt
Mhm.
like it's time. It doesn't work for me anymore. I was so mentally drained from all that design work.
Yeah.
So I said like, okay, not anymore. But the cool thing was the store was a retail store, but at the first floor you had like a little gym.
Mhm.
So clients came in. It's like, hey, you want to try our clothes? You can. And
Mhm.
there's also a gym upstairs. So they had like 3 workouts, group classes a day, in the morning, at lunch, and in the evening. So people would really come out there and work out, and they get like
Nice.
discounts, clothing, everything. And
Mhm.
then one day, a teacher couldn't make us like, hey Arno, we know you got some experience. Do you want to give the class? And we're like, sure. It's like, you can do whatever you can. And it's like, okay,
Mhm.
let's do some calisthenics. And so I did some calisthenics in there, and they loved it. And they said like, hey, you know what? You can teach every week, but you have to do your personal training course. You got to get a license. Like, fuck it, for sure.
Mhm.
So me and my colleagues were all like, let's all do this. Let's all get our degree as personal trainers.
Mhm.
um, but then of course we were already a few, I mean, a lot of months further. I only had like maybe 4 months left there, or
Mhm.
even less. So I started my course, started training, also got a promotion, eventually became like a key leader there, like more of a manager function,
Mhm.
giving way more classes. I started my course, and then I was like, awesome, I'm rolling. And
Mhm.
so I was like, I want to stay here longer. I applied, sent my papers. I got again to the first rounds, and then I didn't get any response anymore. I was like, what's happening? I need a response. But
Mhm.
my time was ticking. Eventually, of course, you have to wait that time to get
Mhm.
response. But when I got the response, it was already, I got a few more weeks left. So I was like, guys, I need something more.
Mhm.
No response, can connect with them by phone. So eventually I went to the board. I'm like, hey guys, I'm still waiting for my permission to stay for another year. It's like, and they were like, there seems to be a mistake. You're not allowed to stay longer than a year. You're from Belgium. You can only stay 1 year longer. But I had like everything arranged for my company, like sponsorships, letters,
Mhm.
all that stuff. I could eventually really stay longer if I paid a lot of money, but I was like,
Mm.
I'm not in this situation.
Yeah.
I still borrowed some money, like a few thousand euros from my broken laptop, my everything as well. Like, I'm trying to pay things back here. I'm not in that situation.
Uh,
And she's like, sorry, we cannot change anything. You have to go back to Belgium in like a week or two. I was like, what? So
okay.
yeah. So in a few weeks, I had to sell my stuff in my apartment, quit my job, and yeah, go back to Belgium. So I came here like feeling devastated again because I felt like I had this idea. I'm going to go to Canada. I'm going to come back like physically fit,
Mm.
spiritual master,
Mm.
get everything dialed down financially, girlfriend, everything's going to be booming. And then I came
Mm.
back with like, I lost my job. I am still in debt. I
Mm.
feel kind of drained because I was always working, didn't have the time to train. I mean, I love my stay there, but I met some awesome people, but I had some really hard times there as well. I was
Mm.
always smiling and always going forward, but it was not an easy journey. So
Mm.
eventually I came back, and I did finish my personal training course in Brussels because it was an international program or
Mm.
course. Passed my exam in Brussels eventually, but then hey, I came back in Belgium after years. My relationship with my friends was totally different.
Mm.
I even felt less at home, and I
Mm.
was like, fuck, where do I start to work? You know, and then eventually I started like again put my ego aside and started asking every little gym just to start there, just I don't know, cleaning behind the
Mm.
desk, folding towels. I didn't care, and I tried everywhere, like the most basic cheapest gyms, and nobody took me in
Mm.
until eventually 6 months later of more crumbling financial fucking having nothing at all
Mm.
to eventually some guy which I worked together with as a bartender in the past, like he started to work as a manager at the gym's like, hey, we know your profile. Why don't you step in here? And we need somebody who
Mm.
just rocks walks around the gym, puts the weight aside, cleans it, refills the soaps, folds the towels, does some computer work. So like, you know what? Let's just go. And then I started there. Uh, but the thing was, I needed to start there not as a working guy for the company, but I had to be independent.
Mm.
It was like another way of them paying me. It was more
Mm.
beneficial for me, but not really for me. But I was like, fuck, I just need a job, you know.
Yeah.
So I was kind of my own boss, and
Mm.
they pay me through invoices and that stuff. But like the hourly wage was nothing, you know. So I had to do crazy amount of hours,
Mm.
and the owners of the gym had another gym, so I worked at those two gyms. I think I worked almost every day, and then I was eventually also teaching at a third gym where I started teaching my classes.
Mm.
So yeah, I think that was a journey of almost 2 years just doing that as a job, like, but I lived quite far from the
Mm.
place. So I was like waking up super early, riding almost about 45 minutes with my bike super early, open up the gym, riding back super late in the evening, sleeping like 5 hours, back on track in the morning, like this roller coaster of like, but I just knew I'm at least I'm in the right space, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Was that the brick in Antwerp? Was that one
Yeah,
already? Or yeah.
that was the brick. So actually at first I went to sport club at Alentje,
All right.
where I started teaching once a week. That was kind of like gave me some confidence, like maybe I can start doing also another job in the gym. So then I
Mm-hmm.
went to the brick, which gave me like 4 working days there, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
they own another gym, it's called Materia, where I
Mm-hmm.
did like another 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did those three gyms, and then that's where my career as a coach later started.
Yeah. Because I remember we're talking about that, right? Because I was going through my own stuff here in Norway, which was very similar along the lines where it's like,
Yeah,
okay, like you don't make shit unless you're working a lot, right? As a
yeah,
PT here, I mean, the hour pay, and let's just to be perfectly fair, it's a total ripoff, right? So they're asking like
hmm,
750 per session or something, Norwegian kroners, right? Which
yeah,
is like 75 euros. Out of that, I saw like 25 euros or 20. So I
yeah,
was like, yeah, but like
yeah.
I'm
Honestly,
not getting paid really. Like you guys are getting paid, but me,
yeah, yeah,
like what the fuck? Like I need to do, what was it, like 100 something hours or 120 hours a month
Yeah.
to make things work, right? So you can pay rent and food and your bills, and that's kind of that
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
of the time, right? So we were
Yeah.
talking, and I was already doing the PT thing, so I had my experience because I told you, or rather, I asked you, like, okay, so what do you want to do? And you were like, yeah, I'm thinking about PT, and that's one of the first things that I told you was like, yeah, just be smart about it because,
Yeah.
like,
But
even though you
honestly,
might
like,
be earning more, like, it's not gonna be easy, you know?
no, for sure, for sure. But honestly, like, for me, really becoming a personal trainer was a blessing because
Mm,
before those 2 years I was working, I was not really a personal trainer. They called me an advisor. So
mhm,
I was in the week cleaning the gym, doing the basic maintenance work. But in the weekend, I had an opportunity to also in the break teach a class.
mhm,
It was more like of a full body weight training combined with some treadmills class, super fun class as well. I loved giving that class. And also I
mhm,
gave calisthenics in the week. And but also on Saturday, my function was more okay, weighing people, checking with people, give some food advice, some training programs. So that was a good learning school. And I also had the
mhm,
opportunity to watch other trainers. The thing was, I was working for my invoices were arranged by another company, so I had the freedom of mind that if I didn't have any job as
mhm,
a independent, that I didn't have any crazy social security costs or anything. But
mhm,
eventually, I did make the switch to becoming fully independent in my own company. So I
mhm,
was pushed. Then, of course, I had to make money. But
mhm,
then also, I decided like I need to really start working as a coach.
mhm,
And I said to my boss like I cannot do these days anymore. I was
mhm,
financially, I paid all my debts, so I said this is time to take the leap and to really do something that I've been afraid of for a very long time. So I said like
mhm,
I'm gonna become a coach because some people were like seeing me giving my class, and I had my website that was the good side of being a designer. I could do
mhm,
everything myself, so my visuals looked good, so people were attracted to my visuals and my storytelling,
mhm,
and they felt in my classes that I had a more broader holistic approach in training. Because in the gym that I was working at, everybody was very only aesthetically, physically based. Of course, they had a good mindset as well,
mhm,
uh, but they didn't have really that holistic approach, and that was my uniqueness there. So
mhm,
eventually, I did become a coach, and I started attracting some clients, and then it shifted really quick. To be honest, like in a very short amount of time, I got a lot of clients in, and I could really say, you know what, I don't need to do these crazy hours anymore. And I went from like um, being earning like as an advisor, like maybe if you pull out every taxes and everything, from €8 an hour to
mhm,
suddenly making like um yeah I, €60, but of course taxes go away. It's like
mhm,
€30, but still like
mhm,
the jump for me was massive, and I got a
mhm,
lot of clients, and eventually I I fell into the trap again of doing crazy hours. But still it didn't matter because like I was humbled and grateful that fuck,
mhm,
I suddenly have all these clients
mhm,
and I'm making extremely good money. That was like I was blown away. And like
mhm.
for me, financially having that breakthrough was all the debts that I could pay up, the also your just the relief of the feeling of freedom, like hey, I can finally
Yeah.
start investing in myself and doing the stuff
Mhm,
that I really want to do, and I'm proving it. That gave such a huge
mhm,
boost in confidence, and since then I haven't looked back. Like I've been like going up and up and up. Of course you have your
mhm,
waves, but like I started shooting up for sure really quickly. Like I was amazed myself, and
mhm.
still very grateful for that switch.
Yeah, man. Because that's, I mean, when you kind of finally align, with what you wanted to do
Yeah.
from the get go, right? Then it just kind of comes together like that in a beautiful way. And like, I was super excited for you when you were like, okay, like that intake went well. I was like, great,
Yeah.
awesome. And that's also, I guess, when you started investing in yourself, you did a course. Was it the Czech holistic lifestyle coach, or the holistic what is it
Yeah.
called, the level
First,
one, right?
yeah, so first of all, I did the ACE, American Council on Exercise course, which was
Mm,
started in Canada, finished in Belgium. I actually started ball check very much later, to be honest.
mm,
I did Primal Movement, it was called, by Dr. Perry Nicholson. It's
yeah,
called Stop Chasing Pain on
yeah,
Instagram. I did a course with him. Then I did a course with Eugene Teo.
Yeah.
Coach Eugene, and that was in Italy. And
Hmm.
then I took a third course in Switzerland with Joseph Fusek from Fighting Monkey.
All right. Mm.
So I just love to get myself out there. And then I started Paul Chek's course, which to be honest, I still haven't finished, but I don't mind because the thing was I was in a space where, I mean, I read Paul Chek's book. I went to the course fully,
Hmm.
I think almost fully. But the thing is, I was reading so much and I was doing all these courses, and eventually I realized, hey Arno, you have to start doing something with the knowledge you have. And I
Hmm.
said, like, I'm gonna put these courses aside and actually start doing the work
Hmm.
for me, because I felt like the courses and all the things were getting away from actually getting myself out there. Like, hey, I need another course. I need to read another book before I can show my value.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I saw like it's time for me to start implementing instead of like staying in the information place, like implementation. Like I have all
Hmm.
the awareness, but I want to be alive. I want to step into the space of aliveness. I want to do
Hmm.
something with what I have.
Hmm.
And that's a very valuable lesson that I've learned for myself. And I realized that there's so much more in me already that people are really grateful for and that I can give. And I
Hmm.
don't need to be up in this idea that I need all these courses anymore.
Hmm. Yeah, man. Because I mean, with these types of things, especially if we consider them like holistic, so all the different styles of training and the implications of training, but also
Yeah.
all these different things about nutrition, sleep, etc., etc. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people know this, right? So they go through that information gathering phase, which
Yeah.
which I did as well. And then as a PT, you just go like, okay, but now what? Like my clients, I mean, for me anyway, it might have been different for you. Like when it came to like sleep and nutrition, it never really like connected for here or here. Maybe it's my clients, maybe it was the way I presented things, whatever be the case, right? It
Yeah.
was just like a disconnect between me trying to give them more and them wanting more. It was just
Yeah.
like your place is to train me and that's it, you know.
Yeah.
But for me anyway, like I was thinking about that integration as well. It was just like a blockage, like
Yeah.
an obstacle to do that in the environment I was a part of and with the people that came with certain preconceived notions and intentions. And then, yeah, like I was like, all right, like it won't be happening here. But how did that integration take place for you?
Ho- the thing is, before I got into health and healing or strength and spirituality, I always felt that was inherently, innately in me.
Mm,
And also something that I always was very inspired by was the art of storytelling.
mm,
And I just love like how most warriors or masters, they have an amazing story.
mm,
And that's something that I learned in branding, like, and also as a coach and seeing everybody, like, people are not per se attracted to the training itself, but they're attracted to the individual, like who's
mm,
the voice behind the training, who's the personality behind the training. That's why I loved all these guys like Bruce Lee, Michael Jordan.
mm,
Their fucking personalities were like, oh, they're like giants. Their energy
mm,
is like poof, exploding, and I was attracted by
mm,
that. Like, what's
mm,
the energy behind the physicality, behind the mindset, behind the spirit? So I knew that storytelling was something very powerful. Um, so when I was teaching my classes, I was like storytelling. I was like, hey, but actually, if you breathe like this is what your organs do. This is what your mind does. This
mm,
when you move like this, when you work on your range of motion, that's actually also how your spirit works. Your spirit also needs the range of motion. You need to play in
mm,
that field, but also train the strength in your mind to become mental agile, to become spiritually strong.
mm,
Like how one thing works is how the other thing works. How you do
mm,
one thing is how you do everything. Like I started using the power of my storytelling
mm,
and learn to use my voice and my values and my vision
mm,
to, yeah, like attract people into my world.
mm,
And that's where people start like, hey, Arno, I just love your mindset. You have such a unique vision about training, about the world, about food. I would love to get a training session from you, but I love to know a bit more.
mm,
What's what you do around food. And then I started to also, I've always been the type that embodies what I say, of course, with
Mm,
ups and downs, with mistakes, with the lessons, with the fears, with the whatever's.
mm,
But I more and more, when I got the confidence, I start sharing that as well on my Instagram, on my stories,
mm,
where people could like see, hey, Arno is not just like messing around, he's really eating it, eating
mm,
like he says he eats. He's really like doing the meditation, the journaling. He's yeah, I just try to prove and show people like, hey, I'm just not um only thinking about these concepts, I'm
mm,
putting them into action. I don't just understand them, I feel them, you know. And
mm,
people got attracted to that energy that eventually started to grow in me as well. Like, I'm that energy of, okay, this is me, I'm finding
mm,
my voice in my training, I can express my real voice, I can share
mm,
my values, and I can share my vision, what I see for what health is for me in the world, and how I see the world in an holistic, healthy way. And people like,
mm.
they started being attracted
Yeah, man.
to that energy, I think so.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, I mean, the key takeaway, as I see it anyway, about like showing up, authentically and genuinely, and not
Yeah,
from a place of like trying to push people, but like just educating them. And that's also something that like I struggled with for quite some time when I was doing the personal training, because I had all of these things, like I was already doing some breath work and meditation and cold exposure and tinkering with my food and stuff like that. And I just didn't have that, like, I wasn't, not necessarily that I wasn't being authentic, but I felt like I couldn't be myself in that place.
yeah,
And then I never really did, because as you say about like the energies, right? If I don't show up as my full self and I rein it in, then how would I expect these types of people to either
yeah.
ask me about these things or
So,
apply these types of things?
yeah, totally, because we
Mm,
all know that energy doesn't lie, and subconsciously people feel it. And the thing is, like,
mm,
I, over the years, I did so many different things, whatever the different nutrition styles, different training styles, different mentality aspects, different ways of meditating, visualizing, journaling, all the different stuff of doing business, of
mm,
trying to financially attract what I want to do. There were so many versions of me, but what was always missing was the intention. The action was there, but I
mm,
never like felt it at the beginning. I was
mm,
doing it more because I've read about it or seen
mm,
other people do it, but it was not really aligned to how I wanted to live. And eventually I started switching into feeling like, what really matters for me. And then I
mm,
started realizing that it's not what we're doing, but it's all how we're doing it, and like
mm,
the intention behind it. And
mm,
I left all these voices from other people out there aside, because it didn't matter even
mm,
if I was eating keto style, paleo style, vegan style, was never good enough for people around me. Like, oh, why are you doing this again? Or why are you doing that? And then
mm,
I was like, gained all the muscles before I
mm,
was too skinny. And then I was like, yo, you're too big now. It's ugly. Like, what are you doing? Like,
mm,
then I was doing calisthenics and I was like, oh, you're too ripped. You're too shredded. That's ugly. I mean, I was like, but then I realized it's me, I'm
uh,
the one who's like feeling bad about it because what people
uh,
are saying. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do me.
uh,
Whatever people say. But that's a process we all go through. First we care, and then
mm,
we don't care anymore. And it takes a while,
yeah,
it takes a lot of experiences, it takes a lot of hurt and a
mm,
lot of self-suffering to like finally surrender, say like, I'm not gonna let go, I'm just gonna let it in, and
mm,
this is me. And
mm,
the moment you find your real voice and stop caring what other people say, it's very, we all know this, but once
mm,
you really feel it,
mm,
because I understood it for a long time, but once you really feel it, you can feel that burning energy in you of
mm,
like, what is me? Fuck,
mm.
you become unstoppable.
It's a real visceral experience.
Yeah,
And
totally.
I think especially because of our background, and I know for a lot of people that might sound like demeaning in a way, but it's like Belgians generally are educated not to be anything else than conformists. It's like,
Hmm.
be so not obsessed, but be so considerate about what everyone else is saying and what everyone else wants for you and what you should be doing on the societal level.
Yeah,
Right? We've heard that stuff since we were kids. Nothing is about
100%.
you. as
Yeah.
a person, as an individual. It's like, what will other people think? Don't do this, don't do that, go do this, you know. And
Yeah.
I know that's kind of the same in most Western societies, but I think it's amplified by the Christian Catholicism uh, thing, you know, old school, where it's like, oh, you know, what will other people think? And a
Yeah.
lot of Belgians live their life like that. Like, it's very apparent in my family,
Mm-hmm.
especially in my like mom and my mom and my grandmother. And I
Mm-hmm.
always need to laugh when she like talks about these things about like what will other people say or think. And I'm just like, I always need to laugh because it's like, who cares? Like about
Yeah.
what they think? Like, it doesn't matter at all. It's about you as the individual, you know. And
Yeah.
it took like through that, like that conceptualization that came on, and then that realization to where I came to that point, like, I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do. Like
Yeah.
when I moved to Norway, that was one of those things. When I quit my PET job here, that was one of those things. Right, and doing the coaching that I do now, or everything that I do now, is just like, this is just how, what and how I want to do things and the way I
Yeah.
want to show up in my life, right? So I went through that same process where it's like, how do I want my life to look, right? If it's
Yeah.
on my terms anyway, like, you know, because we're, yeah, so educated on internalizing everyone else's voice, right? The parents, school,
Totally.
your
Totally.
your
Yeah.
immediate environment, right? Your neighborhood. And then a lot of it is just the same type of, because I know Belgians will laugh at American society quite often, but how are you guys any different? Like, it's the same thing, it's just a different expression, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's
Totally. And
not, yeah, you go.
no, I totally agree. And there's a lot of things there.
Mm,
First of all, like, it takes a lot of work for ourselves to start to see that as an observer, like what is happening in society, what is happening in your closest environment, in your family,
mm,
what happened to me as a child, what is happening to me right now in my job, in my life, everything. And
mm,
it takes a very strong personality to work through it. And it's like, I've suffered a lot through that because I was always researching and learning. And in the
mm,
beginning, you're like, oh, I want to share all this knowledge. I want to share, like,
mm,
dude, what are you doing? And you want to like adjust other people, but it's not our role, you know? Like, we burst from
mm,
this energy in the beginning. We feel hurt because we don't get accepted in, like, I want to share you, I want to help you, and I'm not getting accepted. Like, and even your
mm,
best friends, they're like, they bring you down instantly, like, what are you, this
mm,
conspiracy, what are you, you're, why are you digging so deep? And like, dude,
mm,
you're not even reading this stuff, so why?
mm,
But then I noticed, like, hey, why am I acting like this? I'm spiritually up leveling myself and like making me feel better and trying to help people, like,
mm,
no. And I realized, like, I need to let it go. And there was one famous quote or a lot of saying by Alan Watts that really changed a lot for me, like, if a deer is walking or passing by a river, and the river is not going to say, like, it's not going to get angry when the deer is not going to drink from it. It's just going to
mm.
keep flowing. It's not going to say, hey, you motherfucking deer, you should be drinking my fresh water. No, deer passes by, and when it wants to drink, it will drink, and when it's
Mm,
not thirsty, won't drink. So I see myself as a river, like, I just keep flowing.
mm,
And if people are interested or feel thirsty into my knowledge, my energy flow, they'll
mm,
come to me, and like, I'll offer them to drink, but I'm not
mm,
going to push upon other people. And then I realized that also the things that I was pushing was actually not really me. I was trying to
mm,
push things that I consider to be healthy,
mm,
but they were actually just also another story. And I went to all these deep rabbit holes of what health can be, and eventually I said, like, there's truths on every side, there's things on every perspective, and I know my
mm,
consciousness influences things as well while I'm searching for those things. So
mm,
I realized I just need to follow the thing that feels right for me in this time, and that will change always. Just what is my
mm,
truth at this moment, what do I feel like is intentionally meant for me, and I follow that. And then
mm,
eventually I started also to learn that another thing that I wanted to work to talk about, like the thing you mentioned, is like, I knew the power of having like a vision of, like,
mhm,
every choice that I made, I started seeing as a step into another dimension. Like, every
mm,
choice, every little yes for me is a step into the dimension of the world which I want to live in. So
mm,
I started to realize on a almost quantum energetical level, like, hey, I can do this by making every little choice count.
mm,
And in the beginning, I did it from a lot of pain, because I started actually a lot of my health journey because I saw a lot of mental issues in my family, from my father's side, from my grandfather's side, on mother's side. I
Mhm.
also saw a lot of physical diseases, a lot of cancer with all the females in my family. So that for me, I started health from like really a young age. I was afraid. I was afraid of
Mhm.
dying, of pain, of not being healthy. So I started my whole health journey from a lot of pain
Mhm.
and like this fear of like being unhealthy.
Mhm.
But eventually I learned that it works in the opposite way. So how can you actually be whole and healing if you're working from a negative energy, from a push?
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
eventually, after a long time, I found my pull.
Mhm.
I was not afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid anymore of disease, of cancer. I was like, you know what? Why should I be afraid? Afraid of something I don't even know how it feels.
Mhm.
So I'm alive now. And I
Mhm.
started seeing the positivity. And then now I feel more like I'm pulled every day by my future self standing there already
Mhm.
in spiritual alignment, physical alignment, whatever has the business, everything. And I just realized that having that powerful vision has made everything able in my life to live how I want to live.
Mhm.
And I'm not pushing myself. I'm being positively inspired and pulled into my future.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also like, or I would contribute a lot of that to the societal type of thinking, right? Which is like that they enforce this faculty for
Hmm.
negativity, which is becomes
Yeah.
its own bias. And even now, if you read a lot of books, I mean, just there's plenty of examples, but Ben Greenfield, maybe you've heard of
Yeah.
him. Like, yeah,
For sure.
right. So he has a good book. It's by all means good information wise, which is boundless, but most of the information does exactly that. It speaks to that negative faculty where it's like, if you don't do these things, then this is what you're gonna
Yeah.
get.
I
And
totally.
it's just constantly like, if you move, like Arno said, from that parameter or paradigm from fear and
Yeah.
negativity, then
Yeah.
it,
You'll never get on the other side.
no, exactly, because it's like if I'm aiming a bow, right? If I'm gonna shoot at what I'm focusing at. This is the same thing.
Exactly.
I'm only
I,
looking at the negatives and trying to steer like away from that by looking at it, but it
yeah.
doesn't work like that. So
Yeah.
if I want to experience the positives or the thing that I want to have, then I should focus on the thing I want to experience, right? So,
Exactly. That's the whole thing a lot in the healing journey, that
mm,
a lot of it comes from fear. And everything,
mm,
even right now, which is highly noticeable during the pandemic, all the health measurements are based on fear. What are you
yes.
going to attract? Yeah, a lot of fearful people who are
Mm,
uh, approaching health from a fearful state, so they're never going to achieve what they want to achieve. And
mm,
like, you have to learn to somewhere along the line, it's
mm,
like, where are my intentions coming from? What am I
mm,
trying to attract? What self perpetuating reality am
mm,
I living in? And then you're like, realize like, oh, I've been going through this process all wrong. And I even had that through all my even my plant medicine journeys. Like,
mhm,
I realized like, why am I stepping this? Is it still out of fear of not being enough? Or like, even you can fit into a box in the regular community, in regular society, but you can also fit into a box in a spiritual world where people like, oh, I need
mm,
to do yoga or be vegan or do only plant medicine. I'm not
mm,
trying to connect them together, but the point is like, you can shift or maintain the same patterns in every world, the
mm,
same fearful patterns. It doesn't matter what level you are in, which you
mhm,
might think is higher.
mhm.
The same levels lived for me when I felt like, oh, I'm spiritual now, I'm more healthy now. And I
Mhm.
realized like one day, like, fuck, I still have the same old patterns.
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah,
Christ, I did
yeah,
so much
man.
work and I'm still here.
Mm,
And then one point I really shifted by letting it all go. Like, you know what? I'm me, I'm alive. I don't need to do all the courses, I don't need to read all the books. I just
mm,
am enjoying me. And
mm,
life itself
mm,
is spiritual as I am. Like,
mm,
every connection, everything, every bone, every piece of skin on my body, the sunlight, the grass, I'm
mm,
just fucking gonna enjoy everything and letting go. Because for a very long time, I kept this really serious energy on
mhm,
healing and health, very strict, almost robotic. And I was like,
mm,
fuck, I'm an instrument. I should play, I should have fun. And
mm,
like, I also wanted to build a lifestyle of health that is allows me to live how I want to live. Like, I'll give the example of Greenfield, since we talked about it. I believe health is I don't think we need anything. Like, for
mm,
sure, you can do all the biohacks, all the lights on your ears, the on your head,
Mm,
and the electronical impulses, and the perfect smoothies, or the
mm,
perfect meats, the wild grass fed. But like, I'm a guy that puts curiosity on number one.
mm,
I'm very curious about life. I see myself as an alien. I came here into a human body, a spirit
mm,
coming into a human body, and I am here on this planet maybe for the first time.
mm,
We both know that it might be not true or untrue, whatever. But
mhm,
I consider myself for the first time like, I want to explore foods. Of course, I want to do it from a conscious, healthy space, aligned with my heart, which
mhm,
you'll learn along the way. But like, I want to explore those countries, and I want to be able to train abroad in nature. And
mhm,
for me, in the beginning, healthy was very strict, serious, and like almost like a regime. I had to do
mhm,
all these crazy habits every morning, train in the gym, have all these perfect meals at that time,
mhm,
go to bed at that time. For sure, they can help you readjust and help the process of self-regulation. But eventually, I don't want to be having my shakes every day. I don't want to be stuck in a gym. I don't want to be stuck with all these traveling with these biohacking devices. No, I believe my body is working for my best self-interest all the time,
mhm,
and I don't need all the supplementations. I feel and believe that if my body is lacking a mineral, I will feel it in my mouth that I need to eat something. My body will regenerate itself. My body will
mhm,
do everything energetically for me. I don't need anything. So I can
mhm,
travel, live abroad, do all the crazy explorational stuff while
mhm,
still staying healthy and without needing all these a backpack full of supplements, of books, of courses, of biohacking tools.
mhm,
No, and that's my vision, because that's how I want to live. I want to be free, curious,
mhm,
traveling, having for sure one day a place, a healing center, healing place, training place of my own.
mhm,
But I choose a vision of health that fits my lifestyle, and I truly
mhm,
believe in that way. And that's
mhm,
what people need to build for themselves. They need to see, okay, what is my vision? What is my values? What is my
mhm,
voice in health? How can I embody it? And how can I truly, truly
mhm,
believe that it's
mhm.
working for me?
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part, because that's where emotions come in and thoughts come in, and that's the hardest part to train for sure. But once you really,
Mhm.
takes a lot of practice, which can be a fun journey, and once you really feel that, oh, the change is limitless.
Yeah, man, 100%. And that's when it comes to belief and vision, again, like that's also probably why both of us never vibed with Belgium. It I mean, not only isn't it perpetuated, it's like being actively blocked in people. Because
Yeah.
I met a lot of the same resistance with anything I did, whether it was like when I started training, when I started changing my nutrition, and I stopped going out and getting shit faced every weekend. And when I
Exactly.
wanted to go to Norway, people were like, what? Like, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of that, like, it was actually someone that I at that time was my best friend, and I got my invitation to go to Norway, and then he was like, "Oh, it's too good to be true," and blah blah blah, and this and that, and I was like, I didn't get it at the time, but it was like, why aren't you happy for me?
Yeah.
But it's
Totally.
because all these people don't have their own visions, and
Yeah.
we. I mean, like most people in society, but Belgians especially, really, and just as bad as the Americans, operate on only beliefs on the societal level. Like
Yeah. Totally.
individuated belief is like, that's a, like, how dare you believe anything else? Like, that's absurd. What?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
man,
it's
like
totally
I,
true.
I had to go through the exact same thing, like go through all these beliefs,
Yeah.
you know, about how I want to live my life, about how I want to approach my coaching, right? Because I was stuck into that same loop which is this entire thing, like, oh, you need to do so much, and I had a structure that I inherited, let's say, from another coach,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that I just kind of took that template and used it in my coaching. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think it was after 6 months of that, I was like, I'm writing a program every month. Like,
Yeah.
what I'm doing is stupid. Like, these clients, like, it's too much information. They need to
Yeah.
do too much, like,
Totally.
etc. etc. I was doing way too much. And I
Yeah.
shifted that to just like, I'm being more with my clients. I'm giving them more time to figure it out themselves, all these types of
Yeah.
things. And that's because, I mean, obviously there's a vision that I've crafted, but because of working through these beliefs, right?
Yeah,
And then you
totally.
come to different modes of living and modes of thinking, and a lot of this like rat race stress just melts away. It's like people ask like, okay, like do you really need to work a lot to earn a lot of money?
Yeah,
Not really. You really
totally.
don't. Like, it's
Yeah,
just a fallacy. Like, yeah, you need to,
exactly.
there's a build
Yeah,
up and you
totally.
do need to work, but it's not like you need to kill yourself. Like, I've
Not at
scaled
all. Not at
back a
all.
lot of what I do and I'm still making more money. So
I'm
how does
totally in
that
this.
make sense?
I mean, totally in the same boat. There's also another thing, and I wanted to say a few things there. Like, first of all,
Mm,
like for you moving to Norway, for me moving to Canada back then, and also I've been traveling to South America a lot lately. Like,
mm,
I also grew up with everybody saying, and I also while going through the spiritual journey, like, and it's totally true for sure until one level. Like they say, when you move abroad, nothing will change if you remain the same person. For sure, your same
mm,
patterns will stay everywhere. But
mm,
on the other side, I do also believe that everybody has his or her own kingdom somewhere. Like
mm,
we just naturally have a place where we thrive better, and that's not only talking a mental aspect by being surrounded by the right people. We all know
mm,
that the people which you surround yourself with make yourself as well.
mm,
But not only that, also your environment. I just love to be in nature, in the sun. I love to hear
mm,
animals when I wake up with my
mm,
feet barefoot on the ground. Like we have our kingdom somewhere where
mm,
we are more aligned, more attuned to working better for ourselves, for the world. And that's
mm,
not a bad thing. We're not always escaping something. For sure, you
mm.
can, again, it's the intention. If you're
Exactly.
escaping,
Mm,
then for sure you will go to the same patterns, which I felt in Canada.
mm,
But you can also live somewhere else where you find and you learn to work with your parents and you actually feel more attuned to everything you're doing. And
mm,
then, as you said, secondly, I totally feel where you said like we have so much skills and information as coaches that we like think this is normal and we give it to our clients and they're like, what is all of this? Like it's too
mhm,
much. And like we can do way more with way less. And that's also something that
mm,
I'm adapting or playing with every day in my lifetime. The less the better, and that's also how I want to live. The
mhm,
less I can do, the better. The more
mm,
aligned I can do one thing good one in one day, that's fine. And it
mhm,
also relieves all the pressure. And then thirdly, for sure, the lessons of hardship and like thinking you need to work crazy hours to make a lot of money is total bullshit. I work, if people would see the hours that I work, they were like, well, huh, what? How?
mhm,
And you make such an amount of money. Like, how are you doing this? The thing is, like, I've done so much work in the past, for sure.
mhm,
And I've been working on myself for years, writing for years, working when nobody could see it. And
mhm,
these things are like paying off big time right now.
mhm.
But the thing is, I might do those few hours where I'm doing really working with people, but then the other hours I'm always working. My lifestyle is my
Exactly.
work.
Bro, 100%.
I
Yes.
train healthy.
Mm.
Sorry, I train every day. I mean, now it's an exception because I have this torn muscle for sure, but I still have my legs to train with. But the point is, I eat healthy every day.
Mm,
Like no joke, everything that I do
mm,
is my work. My work is
mm.
my life. It's my
Yes.
life's work, and everything that I do is my service to people. So when I'm
Mm,
done doing that 1 hour call or
mm,
whatever the group call, I'm still gonna be writing. I'm still gonna be reading because I'm energized by my
mm,
future vision. Like, yes, I have,
mm,
and I've always had this. I've been born with this kind of like powerful purpose in me that is like, you are gonna bring this to the world and you're gonna goddamn change the world. And
mm,
that's, I don't take that lightly, and I'm very serious about it when I say like,
mm,
for some people like, oh, this guy is like very utopias and like has these
mhm,
imaginary ideas, but like that's the whole point. Yes, I have this imagination and that is my powerful tool. That's actually which I'm using because I
mm,
believe so hard in that energy in me, and
mm.
I'm gonna prove everybody that it's true because it's already happening. I'm proving it as we speak. So
Yeah, man. Your life proves it. And that's also like, it's the exact same thing that I told my clients or that I tell people in general. Like, my work is my life, right? So the way
yeah,
I coach my clients is just the way I live my life. And
yeah,
that isn't to say that they all need to do what I'm doing. It's just that for
no,
me,
for sure.
there none of this is working, right? So whatever I'm doing when I'm with clients, and a lot of it is really like we're just hanging and I'll teach them some boxing and some movement and we'll go swim in the fjord and have dinner together. Life is great. And like outside of that, the reading is because if because we're starting from that same intention. Like the
Yeah.
better I make myself, or the more aligned with everything, and I just love reading, I love writing. So the more I'm just developing myself,
Yeah, totally.
the more they get out of it. And whatever I
Sure.
do is just it's work stuff
Yeah.
technically, right?
And
And I just show up in my life and
totally, man.
they
I
get
feel
the
that
benefits.
100%,
Mm.
because it's like that's eventually what everybody is looking for as a person. We are attracted, like the stuff I told before, like the energy of
Mm.
Bruce Lee and Michael Jordan.
Mm.
Like we are attracted as a human species to people who are themselves. Like we are
Mhm.
attracted to this truth, but from a space from coherence and like consciousness.
Exactly.
We are
Mm.
attracted to that. Like there's an energy you cannot pinpoint, but it's there,
Mhm.
and we are attracted by those people and we want to learn from them. And like the fact that they're paying for me for the course and everything and to be coached by me is one thing, but just my energy
Mhm.
being there for them and 100% being there, really genuinely caring for them,
Mhm.
is more important than anything.
Yeah.
That's it's been proven by science more and more. Our energetical state of being, it's been
Mhm.
like literally a potential between us flowing energetically that it's
Mhm.
making them uplift, and that's
Mhm.
priceless. All my experience from over the years is embedded in my energy,
Mhm.
and just by them being surrounded by that energy, as I have my coaches as well, which I get
Mhm.
attracted to by that energy as well. It's like a playful flow of energy between us that
Mhm.
uplifts us more than anything, by having the conversations like how it used to be, sitting by the fire, training together, eating together. That
Mhm.
is the healing that we're looking for, just
Yeah.
basically living. It's an
Yeah.
integration in our life, not just
Mhm.
information like do this program, do this. No,
Mhm.
it's ingrained, trained, integrated in our life, and every life event becomes an initiation. Everything in life becomes a
Mhm.
ceremony. We're embedded in the healing process all the time. It's not this separate box, 1 hour
Mhm.
of this, 10 minutes of this. No, it's life, aliveness and awareness. That's the
Yeah.
point.
100%. And that also ties back to what you said before about health. Like, if we take the Ben Greenfield example, like, health isn't very complicated. Like, our
No,
ancestors
exactly.
were extremely healthy. So we live in this idea of adding things instead of subtracting things and then going back to the
Yeah,
like biological coherence is ancestral in and of itself, right?
yeah,
You need sunlight,
totally.
you need some connection, you need to eat things that are congruent to your genetics and how nature manufactures them, right? There's a really good
Totally.
Stoic saying, like, if you desire figs in winter, you're an idiot. Right? It's that.
That's,
Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
live
for
in
sure.
Norway. Like, if I want something sweet, I mean, I can get it, but like, I mean, there's a lot of science behind that, but that's the thing about seasons. Like, in this
Exactly.
season it's not available. It's really simple. Like,
Totally.
it's not rocket science or brain
Yeah.
surgery. It's just like,
And
follow the principles of nature,
totally,
right? Be
totally.
coherent, and your
Yeah.
health is gonna skyrocket. Like,
Yeah.
sleep and all these other things. That's why I tell my clients, like, it's not that hard, really. I mean, it's
Exactly.
challenging in the beginning because a lot of we were so,
It
I
takes
mean,
practice,
yeah, it
It's as
takes
simple as
practice
that. It takes
because we're
practice. Like,
habituated, let's say, to do the
yeah,
reverse, right? The staying up late,
totally.
etc., etc. So yeah, man, and that energetic component is, it's very big, because a
Yeah.
lot of people that you might experience that come in, right, they don't believe in themselves, so they don't hold the energetic capacity or the energy of self-belief that they can do this thing,
Yeah.
right?
And that's our
Whereas
yeah, that's our job as a coach.
that's exactly, that's our job.
We are in that energetical state of
Mm.
already accepting that for ourselves, and we push themselves in that state because we believe in them more than they do in themselves, but
Mm.
eventually that energy will come into them as well. And
Mhm.
like you said also before, like having this idea of being able having to add more always to your healing journey,
Mhm.
like that's not a very inspiring way to live, like always having to and pushing more. And like
Mhm.
I always believe in the magic of the world, and like I know the power of my mindset, and about the easiness and the simpleness of my life, and like everything should be easy. Making money, finding love, being healthy, all those things are easy. And it took me a long time to be
Mhm.
able to feel that emotion, like, it's true. It is
Mhm.
that way. because we are born like everything is hard. You need to like all the struggles and all the pain and blah blah blah, and then
Yeah.
we go through all the pains and all the issues, but
Mm,
like it's not empowering. Again, like what is your belief? What do you want to believe? You have a choice to choose what you want to
mm,
believe and live up to that imagination and see it
mm,
happen.
mm.
Believe the fun thing, believe the easy thing, believe the joyous thing, believe the playful thing, because you have
Yeah.
a choice. Like
Yeah.
what, why should you even think about the other side, you know?
Yeah, and that's like the case again is that we're being forced in a way, or at least we're being educated in that way of hardship and force, right? And even
Yeah,
the mistranslations that is are so often perpetuated, like the Buddhist one, life is suffering, and I was like, that's a bad translation. Like life has the capacity for hardship. Yeah,
yeah,
sure, like it's part of life. That's okay, right?
yeah,
And like there's this again, like the Stoics and like other people. I think it was Viktor Frankl as well, who's done this type of thinking or this type of work, where it's like pain, sure, suffering, not really. Like you don't need to
exactly.
suffer. We're layering all these things on top of these things, and we're so far away of but the this what we would say like holistic thinking, but it's more and more biologically congruent thinking, where thinking in
Yeah,
energies, thinking in um yeah positivity, curiosity, as you well mentioned, right? So there's
yeah,
both in the human psychology and evolution a drive for novelty, so the curiosity goes seeking things, and the
yeah,
drive for structure, right? To
yeah,
have
totally.
familiarity, the known, right? The your little safe haven, so you can go explore. And I mean, that's also why like it always comes back to me when the societal things, like so much has so little to do with the
Yeah,
soul or the spirit, right? So
exactly.
the psyche, if you will, right, which is then the Greek word for soul anyway, so ta-da.
Yeah,
It all comes back together, and there's
exactly.
just none of that. Like what makes sense on those levels, right? Biologically
Yeah,
congruent, it's not given to people anymore.
no,
Everything is about the system, the matrix, right? And
yeah,
that's, you're technically, if you're not living your own life, you're just living that life according
yeah.
to what the matrix told you to live. This is the way you're gonna live your life. And that's it.
Yeah, and it's also like, again, like for sure there might be hardship, but it's also like we we in life we go to these energetical stages.
Mm,
Of course, when we're young, we're not completely on our own. We have battles with ego, good and bad. We have hardships, processes, experiences.
mm,
But at one point, we have all those experiences and they push against an energetical layer, and finally we break through and our whole belief shifts. And
mm,
it's fine that in the beginning we need to go through those hardships, but then here we learn that it actually was not necessary. But we had to go through it
mm.
to see the other side, and then we again learn and go to the other level. And we always have to fill up a layer, be worthy of a layer, I must say,
Mm,
to expand. That's
mm,
life. And
mm,
that's just a part of the journey. That's
mm.
just what we go through.
Yeah, man, 100%. And like that also, because I mean, we've both done this type of work, but eventually, right, you basically stopped working as a PT, and then you
Yeah,
change your model to online coaching based, right? Which
yeah,
which integrates all these types of things we've been talking about, right? So
yeah.
you explain a little bit how that came into being.
So um eventually I did all my hours as a personal coach, and as I told before, I kind of got trapped again later on into the working the crazy hours. And I was like, oh,
Mm,
okay, I'm finally having all the financial means, but like still there's more.
mm,
I know that I have the possibility to explore, like, in the curiosity. I wanted to get out there.
mm,
There's only so much in books and courses. I wanted to learn more by living, but then you also have
mm,
to be living somewhere else instead of staying in the same place.
mm,
So my dream was always, also when I was designing branding, graphical design, to be a free man, as in working from where I want to work. So
mm,
eventually I said, like, okay, I had all my clients was fully booked, and I was like, I need to change something. Like, I saw this course online, a mentorship, which I took. Eventually I took it for 6 months, where they were talking about, okay, how can you bring an idea about coaching into a full online practice, into really something you get paid for properly. Um, and so I started doing a course, and I had a lot of insights, and I started reading writing more about the course I had in my mind. So, okay, how I'm going to structure my program. And then eventually it was more of like, I realized this is never going to be done. This is always going to be forever in the workings. So I said, like, my coach at Arno, get a client. How can you know what you're going to be teaching if you're not interacting? You can have all the perfect things written out, and then your client comes with a problem. It's like, oh, it's not in there. So I need to actually
Exactly.
have some mirroring. So I picked up my balls and got in my first client. It was super funny because it was just some friend of a friend, and we hopped on a call, and I got the client in. I set a price in front, and I was like, "Well, fuck! I got my first client." So I needed, okay, let's start writing. Let's start building this program. And eventually, I started building from there. And I'm like, "Hey, I have my first program." And then I had a girl who was also like, "Hey, Arno, I want a personal training program." I was like, I'm not a personal coach yet. I'm not personal coaching anymore. I'm actually quitting. So it was like this battle of like, I need some financial means, and I need to step out because I was being paid very well. I was like, okay, suddenly quit all that and let's just throw myself in. But the good side was I had some safety of money on backup. So I had some room to play. I was like, okay, I kind of fell into my old self, like, okay, I'll give her some personal training program. So I went there, spoke with her personal. And I was like, oh, by the way, I'm actually also working on this. And we started talking about my lifestyle coaching program. And she was like, and why don't you give me that? And I was like,
Oh.
but I was like, yeah, but this is going to cost you a lot more money. So it's like, sure, fine, whatever. I was like, oh, so it was like, I was sabotaging myself. That's the thing that was
Yes.
happening. And I've noticed, like, I had a lot of people who were actually really interested in it, but I was like, oh no, but no, like, Arno, shut up. It's you. So I got out of my way, and finally I got 3 clients in, started like coaching them through Zoom calls via my playbook as well. And then I said I jumped on a plane to Costa Rica because I needed a break. I still was coaching my clients, and then I got a request for a call, and I booked in another client. I got in another client. I was like, wow, I'm in Costa Rica, and I got this other client. And it's like, I really can do this. I can live abroad and do this, but I need to scale my business a bit. If I have one client that's too much hours, a lot of work, and I want to be exploring. I want to be not working too hard and living the free life. So like, I need to have a group coach, you get all people together on the same hours, while the same topic is going to be talked about, and people going to have, I mean, my group where I follow coaching did the same thing. It's like, why can't I do that? And I just started working a bit on my copywriting, getting that stuff better, and really asking like, hey, I need this type of people, this amount of women, this amount of men, this is the date, this is when we start. And just the act of asking for it really aligned it. And within not even 2 weeks, I think it was even 1 week, I got like 7 or 8 new clients in for a group call. I was like, fuck, I made it happen. And nice. I just learned, like, I just needed to get out of my own way and really start asking for the things that I wanted. Like, we can stay visualizing all day and pulling that in, but of course, like I said before, the push, but we also need to action. So we need both to come towards each other. So I got the group together, and since then things have been flowing. I got new clients coming in with the group, so I'm just like surprised when you actually ask for the things you want and when you really choose for what you really feel in yourself. Because I had like, even before, I had like clients like, hey Arno, I got money for you for 10 or even 20 personal training sessions. I just want you to keep on training me. And I really made the hard choice, like, no, I don't want your money. Like, I love our time we had together, and I'm super grateful, but I made the choice to become a lifestyle coach online. They were like, hey, but how are you going to do this online? You don't know anybody. How are you going to make money? I have money for you right here. It's like, no, I'm not in here for the money. I want to live my life.
It's very hard for people to understand that concept, that you want to live your life, at the march of your own drum. And that's why I said in the beginning, like, we have very similar stories, because it was exactly the same thing for me. Like, I left the gym that I worked in making decent money, for Norway it was decent. For Belgium it's really good. Because like, the things are just higher here, the salaries in general.
For sure.
And then it was like, okay, I because I wanted to get out of that system anyway, and then I started doing because I didn't even have the whole concept figured out yet. I was like, like whatever, I can do the Krav Maga stuff that I was doing full time. That didn't pan out for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
And then it was like, 2 years ago, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing, and I had nothing like as well. Like it was this, I didn't really have even a financial buffer. I was just like, I'm just gonna do this thing, and it was just so insane. Like I said no to all these things because of that exact same thought. Like if I'm just gonna do that for money, right? So if I'm like, oh yeah, like I'll do this PT thing, then it feels like I'm betraying myself. Not only am I betraying myself and my alignment, I'm sabotaging the very thing I'm trying to build.
Yeah.
And that just...
Yeah, like I totally feel you there, because we just have to learn to go to those courageous actions, and it's the other side is always unknown. We cannot see what's on the other side. And it doesn't matter if it's financial or relational or business wise. You get used to making those choices, and it gets exponentially. You learn to make it quicker and quicker and quicker, and you learn to attract your lifestyle quicker and quicker, because it doesn't matter if it's... I see so much people still following the thing they think is love, still following the thing they think is going to be financially abundant, like trusting all other people, trusting like I'm making tons of money, but you can make way more money if you step on the other side. And every time, like literally every single time I made a hard decision of like quitting a job, going to another country, it panned out for the better. And like literally almost after a few days, especially on the financial spectrum, things came back to me. Like for sure, I said like, okay, the first time in my life I'm paying for a mentorship course. It was like a few $1,000s, like, fuck, this is expensive. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. The next day it was back on my account through some other event. Same thing. Like I said to my client, no, I'm not going to take this personal coaching money anymore, because I know there's more for me out there. And she eventually is like, you know what, Arno, you're right. The next day I got my first life coaching program sold for like 3 times more the money. And it was that trust. I know it's out there. And then again and again, like even investing myself, like I need a new laptop. I was like, oh, fuck, not sure, should I invest it in it? Like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. My work is going to be, my other laptop is too slow. I need to be writing more. I just want to up level my business. The next day I got a new client in, like to another day, another client, and the laptop is already paid. And it's like, it's that easy. It can be that easy if you're just willing to trust. And it takes practice for sure, but it's out there.
Yeah, man, 100%. And that's what we said, or that you've hit that the emphasis on trust a few times, and that's what's like lacking, right? So people start with first they're stuck in the fear paradigm, and then in that facultative negativity, and then it's their entire belief system is based on that, and then the societal thing, which leads into that we don't trust ourselves, or that's basically what you're telling yourself if you don't go do these things. Like if you don't quit your job, then it's like, okay, you don't trust yourself that you either can do it, or that you can figure it out, or that you will be successful. It's just like that's why he said it before, or you said it before, that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy or self-perpetuating, right? Because you put that in motion by not trusting yourself. You're not making decisions that will lead to that, right?
Exactly.
You can only
100%.
So psychologically, and then I guess the way I look at it energetically, you can only work in congruence. You can't do things you're incongruent with. So if I don't trust myself, then how is this thing going to happen? It doesn't, because there's no congruence. As soon as you start practicing trust, right, then it starts becoming congruent. Then these things happen.
Yeah, and it's also, you can see it from the trust perspective, but also like we said before, like if you had the choice to believe it, that it works that way, why don't you? Because it is. whatever you believe it to be wrong or right, you're right in both ways, but choose the empowering one. It's
Yeah.
that easy.
Mm.
And yeah, it's just funny that you see so many people like, I mean, I can even see it in my family here and there, and in friends, they work their ass off, and it's
Mm.
like, yeah, but now is the time. I'm still young. Because then it's like, are you shitting me? Like, shut up, just shut up. You're young and but you're always supposed to be living. You
Yeah,
know
yeah.
why you're gonna be perpetuating yourself in a reality always, where you always have to be working a lot to make a lot of money, but then you don't have
Mm.
time. And then what is life about? I'm choosing to
Mm.
not work as much, to make a ton of money, and to do all the things I want to do. It's that easy, and it's working, and it's happening,
Mm.
and your life is also happening. And something that I also wanted to say is like, I also wrote it a while back. There's a lot of talk about manifestation, and
Mm.
I get it for sure. But people think like manifestation is only aligned to when you're doing spiritual work, or when
Mm.
you're talking about your craziest dreams or visions. But it's bullshit. You're always manifesting. You're always in reality manifesting. You're
Mm.
just not manifesting the things that you want. You're
Mm.
just living into a self-perpetuating reality again,
Mm.
that is not empowering. And so you are manifesting those things. And like people are like, I want to manifest those things. You are manifesting, but just wake up your world,
Mhm.
change your words, change your work, and
Mhm.
you will see another world manifested.
Yeah,
But become aware to live in that other aliveness.
yeah, 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 for sure. Right, because that's the whole thing. Like you're always building upon the work from before, right? Everything
Yeah,
compounds, and then the energies that you're transmitting, right? Because as I know said, like a lot of this, if we speak about energy, there's several things you need to understand. Is that your heart makes a really big electromagnetic field, right? So
yeah,
it actually communicates with the electromagnetic field from your brain, right? They influence each other. And what a part of this, it's not the whole thing, but what we talked about when people get onto the same frequencies is shared neural coupling, right? That is a scientific
exactly.
term for one of the experiences that you can have, right? So a physical manifestation of this entire thing,
Yeah,
but it's so much more, right? And we get lost in all these things where it's just like, no, like I can't, or I don't, well, most people just don't say that they're afraid, they just say I can't. But
yeah. And that in
it's all
itself, yeah,
self-limiting and
yeah,
self-perpetuating, right? Because then you keep enforcing your own beliefs.
yeah.
And if you never get to that point of going into this like energetic work that then leads you into manifesting, then you're going in circles, right?
Exactly. That's what I say to a lot of people. You stay in the loop instead of like going through the spiral upward motion, as everything in
Exactly.
biology is. And
Yes.
it's also like you're, I mean, we get lost in language so much. And if
Mm,
you're not willing to see that, you're going to be, I mean, it takes a long time
mm,
to, I mean, for most people to see where they come from, why their life has manifested as it is right now. But
mm.
you can try to work on the outer level, on the physical realm all day long. It's going to take a long time. Or you can switch back, say, okay, what are my thoughts? What are my emotions? And then
Mm.
start doing the work on the level of beliefs. And it's
Yeah.
so much quicker. It's the
Oh
energetical
yeah.
work that changes everything. So
100%. And that's
yeah,
it's funny because language, that should be the first step, and it's very
exactly.
indicative and illustrative when we're talking about emotions, right? So both
Yeah,
in Dutch and in English, we would say I am angry, but
yeah,
it's a feeling. It's not
yeah.
something
I
you
feel
are.
anger. You are not anger.
Exactly,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And it's very hard for a lot of people to make that separation between their feelings and their
Yeah.
identity. I mean, fuck, it's hard for a lot of people not to get self-identified with anything nowadays, right? Because it's
Nobody
you
knows the concept of context anymore. So
exactly, and everything
yeah,
becomes this like, yeah,
it's just an
that
attack
play
on an identity. Yeah,
exactly, that play on words, right? Because you're always saying I am, you're
yeah,
reinforcing that.
and that's actually a very important thing you say there. Like I said, like we are lost in language, and
Mm,
there's two things there. Like we not only spiritual world and the things, the energetical work, we know the power of language and thoughts and emotions, but
Mm.
also our language literally is limited. So
Mhm.
whatever we can express in a language, it doesn't matter if it's English, Russian, Spanish, Dutch,
Mhm.
there are some things that cannot be expressed in language, and if the language is not there, it's
Mm.
hard to to be able to manifest those things. So
Mhm.
language is a beautiful space of freedom, but
Mhm.
somehow it's also a prison. And
Mhm.
so we that's why it's so also so sad why so many languages get lost or cultures get lost. There's a lot of power there for worlds to manifest, and I believe that
Mhm.
once we also find another way of communicating
Mhm.
beside language,
Mhm.
but more with symbolism, words, calls, whatever, or
Mhm.
another, I don't know how this language will manifest, but then also the world will change in the
Yeah.
same way when everybody works for themselves and sees these things and works on their energy and gets our neurocoupling going on. But if we
Mhm.
reach the critical mass of neurocoupling, then the whole planet, because
Mhm.
we're both in coherence not with our brain, our heart, but also with the planets in
Mhm.
between the earth, then
Mhm.
everything can shift like that because
Mhm.
we're doing the work energetically. And then suddenly it doesn't have to be physical anymore because we all have those beliefs and we
Mhm.
see beyond language, beyond feelings, emotions, and then suddenly the whole world can shift into another dimension because we are doing that in our choices, in our thoughts, but then also it can happen on a massive level, which is what we are experiencing right now in this
Yeah.
time we are alive.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's a philosophical tenets, and I guess then also in psychology, right? So the world is
Yeah,
you pushed out. I mean, Miyamoto Musashi, which is, maybe you know him, but a lot of people
yeah,
might not, or the Japanese swordsman. Hey, like that guy is a gold mine of quotes, but one of my
yeah,
favorite ones
exactly.
is like seek nothing outside of yourself. And then the quote goes on, but really the only thing you need to know is those few words,
Yeah,
because it's all inside anyway, these things that are happening,
yeah,
right?
and
And
it's
if you take it back to the biological level, like you only experience the world through your nervous system, right? So people
yeah,
that are looking for
totally.
scientific validation, like that's it. Your eyes don't even see the world. Like
Yeah,
light comes in from different angles, the image is inverted, your brain is
yeah,
processing
it's
that,
crazy.
changing it, filtering things out, right? We can't see so much stuff, you can't hear so much stuff. It's just your perception of reality. Like you are
Yeah,
creating this and your emotions and everything else. So it's kind of this, again, as we said, like you get the choice. I mean, not just by listening to this, but just in general, to be disempowered or to be self-empowered, right? Because when you
yeah,
start thinking
totally.
about it, it's like, okay, like all of these things make sense, right? It's the perception of the environment, it's my energies, it's my beliefs, it's my narratives, it's all these things that are happening inside that
Yeah,
dictate how you show up in the world and how the world shows up in you, right? So the things
yeah,
you will manifest, because like you said, like you're constantly manifesting, right?
totally.
Relationships are the best example of that. Like if you
Yeah,
keep having the same type of conversations, that shit was never solved. If you keep having the same
totally.
type of problems in your relation, then you keep repeating the same patterns. Like that's on you, not
Yeah,
on them.
yeah, it's so true. Like even the things you said about seeking yourself, I totally agree, and I even want to go further. Like
Mm,
it can also be like this self-perpetuating reality again. Like if you keep seeking or searching, you will end up with a person that's always seeking and searching because
mm,
you're in the self-perpetuating reality.
mm,
And then on the other side, like if you just keep diving deeper and get onto the energetical or even just biological level, we know that we are not even separate. So you can say it's all in
mm,
me, but it's the same. I mean,
mm,
for sure, the work is in ourselves, but
mm,
it's all one thing.
mm,
It's all, we're just like the same thing. Like if you want to be tapping into knowledge or think some things of the past or lost or looking for some information from the future,
mm,
it is all here right now. Energy
mm,
cannot be destroyed nor be created. It's the
mm,
law of conservation. So
mm,
it's always here. It's just being transformed. So it also means we were always here. We might
mm,
not have been in this body, but
mm,
energetically, we've always been here. So that's
mm,
never changing. So knowledge is also actually never lost. Information
mm.
is never lost. We can talk about lost cultures, lost, but everything is always here and will always be here in another
Yeah.
form. And
Mm,
once we learn to tap into that energetically wise, not only for sources for whatever in the future, I don't know, how for transportation,
Mhm.
telekinesis, whatever. It's probably all possible, you know.
Yeah,
It's also
yeah.
dependent on your beliefs. I
Mhm.
think it's awesome to believe in that stuff, but
Mhm.
it all comes down to the same thing. And it's all, like you said, it's all in here and it's all out there. It's all
Yeah,
inherently present.
I think that's
Consciousness, innate intelligence, everything.
yeah, man. The conscious collective, right, or the collective consciousness.
Yeah,
Because a lot of these things, like you said, I mean that particular point, which I really love, like nothing is lost because everything is here, right? So the
yeah,
universe holds all information and all energy, which are
yeah,
technically the same anyway.
yeah,
And then it got me reminded of that, like nothing is lost, because a lot of these, when you read philosophy and whichever one it is, really, like they always talk about, oh, we lost so much things that weren't preserved, right? So there's a
yeah,
stoic who wrote 700 works, none of it survived. But then it's
yeah,
like, okay, but if you look at fundamentally all these things that if we use stoicism, or the example that I just used from stoicism, like that stuff is not lost. Like if you read Jocko Willing's books, it's stoicism,
of
but
course. And the
it's just explained in a different way. Like they
yeah, totally.
rediscovered a fundamental principle, wrote about it. So where has that thing gone? Like nowhere.
Yeah. And it's also the same thing again, if we come back to it, is it an empowering belief that everything is lost? Not
Mm,
really. So why should I
exactly.
believe it? No,
Mm,
I won't choose to believe that way. Like I've been diving into that stuff as well, like how the world is moving right now, like talking about sustainability,
mm.
but even the word or the environment is saying humans are not supposed to be here, we're destroying the planet. Like
It's a very
stop those
dangerous belief.
furry
Mm,
so stop these disempowering beliefs, like humans are meant to be here, we are here, so we are meant to
mm,
be here.
mm,
Life, not everything is lost because nothing can be lost. We are here for a reason, to uplift the world.
mm,
Sustainability is not an empowering word. We're thriving, we're not sustaining life. Life doesn't want
mm,
to be sustained. We want to be
mm.
burst out and live. Like
Yeah.
again, we're politics, everybody's lost in language and using so-called wording to make us create a better place,
Mm,
sustainability, more whatever. But
yeah.
like all these words are perpetuating a reality which we don't want. Like
Yeah.
scratch that out of your vocabulary. We're living in
Yeah.
a world like humans are supposed to be here. We're doing better for the planet. Show all
Mm,
the positivity. We're living in the best time ever, and we'll
mm,
always be living in the best time ever because I'm right here right now, and that is the best thing ever. So
yeah. It's also an Alan Watts quote, right? Like a universe that peoples makes peoples,
yeah.
right? He made it into a verb. I love it. But it's also something that like we can debate that endlessly as well, in the sense like we have become brainwashed to a certain degree, or
Yeah,
on many different levels, through the agenda or propaganda or whatever you want to call it, especially out of the Americas, where it was like even before, like because this is had a long run up, right? So all those 2012 disaster movies where it's like,
yeah,
oh, we are the problem, like
yeah,
we are the
totally.
virus, like those are very disempowering and dangerous beliefs. Like
Yeah,
if we
totally.
created a problem, we're also the solution. It's
Yeah,
not that hard. Like people have been figuring this shit out for so long. Like
totally.
that's again, it's like no trust in our species and in our capabilities that we can figure it out. Yeah, we've done damage to the environment. It's not good. I'm not condoning that. Like this is the
For sure,
price
not at
we've paid
all.
for progress, but at the same time, a more self-empowering belief is like, hey, we can figure this out. We can make things
Exactly.
better, right?
And
It's
it
gonna keep changing
for
the
sure.
whole planet and the whole universe. Like we need to go that way, not
Yeah,
go back.
and the more we trust our own and believe, we will step into that dimension where it's possible, where we truly embody that things. And it's
Mm,
also, I don't care how you turn it, but life is also just a duality. There's night and day, life and death, and that's part of life. And it doesn't mean that you should take advantage or don't do things consciously. The point is, like you see right now, the more you try to push fear on people, the more
mm,
the other side is going to be waking up.
mm,
So whatever power you might call or is out there
mm,
trying to bring humanity down, though all these things we don't want by whatever vaccinations or COVID, or I don't care, the
mm,
harder the other side is going to wake up. So it's only in our advantage.
mm,
So the harder you try to push your your dirty stuff in your room under your bed, one day
Mm.
it's gonna explode. Like the harder
Yeah.
you trying to hide the shit, the harder the pipes one day are gonna blow up. And I mean, all those things that are happening right now, they will be exposed. There's no other way. It's just how
Mm.
life is working. That's why I'm not afraid of anything at all that is happening. If we stay empowered and really do live our own life, then
Yeah.
everybody's gonna wake up one day, some people harder than others,
Mm.
but it's gonna be happening. I can guarantee that for sure.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
Mm.
matter all the whatever, they don't even hold any power. I mean, I feel in my body I have so much energetical power. Like any
Mm.
individual come to me today and say like, "Oh, you should be fearful." I'm like, no, I'm just laughing. Like, get out of here. I mean,
Yeah.
they can hold me down, put a vaccine in my body, chop off my arms, my head, whatever. I'll come back anyways and
Mm.
do my mission again until I
Yeah.
win. So don't you worry about that. It's like,
Yeah.
so
100%. And you've also shown that quite eloquently by traveling, right? And I know a lot of people are afraid to travel. I know a lot of people are afraid
yeah.
to leave their houses, and you're just like, all right, I'm gonna explore the South of America.
It's ridiculous because of course in the beginning like people are like, oh, why are you going there? Oh, I wouldn't go to Colombia or Costa Rica, whatever. It's red zone there. And you come there as like you don't notice anything. Like Jesus,
Yeah,
there's the
it's like
same,
normal.
like there's a few spots that have the same principles as Belgium, like, oh, watch out, the hospitals are full, blah blah blah. And I'm not saying that I'm not gonna say here what's wrong or right, what's truthful or not, but
Mm.
like the only thing is you have some fearful people
Mm.
that's maybe here and there. But honestly, like in Belgium, the fear rate in people is way higher. And there, I'm just living in nature, having
Mm.
sunlight, having healthy natural food. I'm exploring, I'm living in nature. The only thing that is dangerous is the fear they put in your mind before you go there. Like, oh, don't go there. Like, and you come there, there's nothing. Come on, like, guys, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's paradise. It's good life over here. It's like
Yeah, man. It was
this is an illusion.
100% the same. Like I flew to Belgium in August, right? That's almost. I mean, it's not almost a year ago. It's like a little over half a year ago. And then
Yeah,
it was like, like I don't pay that much attention to the news, but it's social media, so or I
yeah,
don't read the news at all. It was my friends like posting these things about like cases and blah 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 and restrictions, and I was like, yeah, already starting to get like, oh my god. And I flew to Belgium, things turned out all right. I mean, I came there and you guys even had more restrictions than we had in Norway back in August. So like,
yeah,
I had a good time regardless, because I was just like, all right, just do whatever I usually do, which I did.
yeah,
So that was good. And then, right, so back in around August as well, like London was like the biggest hotspot in Europe, right next to
yeah.
Italy. It was like everyone was like, oh, this and that. I came into London, it was more normal than Belgium. Like
Totally.
nobody was wearing masks outside and all this other stuff. That was back in August. And I just flew back to Norway. I was like, what a fucking lie. Like everything that's been perpetuated, it's all that fear, yeah, propaganda, basically fear porn, right? To keep you afraid. And life here as well. Like they've, done stricter and stricter lockdowns. And for me, it's just been the same. Like every day, it's like, all right, I'll go. If the gym
Totally.
is closed, that's beyond my control. I'll go train outside, whatever. I've
Yeah.
taken my clients to go swim in the fjord. We've done dinners, we've done just training outside, whatever, having coffee outside. Like this is the thing. Like life isn't closed. Life
No,
didn't
totally.
stop, right? It's you are being stopped because of your own fears.
Yeah, and like honestly, like there's a lot of like rules hanging around that are not even like they're not even lawful, you know?
Yes.
Like I step out of the plane from Colombia and they're like everybody's like, oh, they see a line, you have to take a test when you come back. The first day you see all these people, oh, straight to the line.
Mm.
Let's do this test and see if I have COVID. I was like, nobody's pushing me to get in the line. I'm just gonna step out this airport right now. If anybody wants to stop me, they can try. But like
Yeah.
I'm not obliged to do any tests. Like who gives you the right to what the hell are you talking about? And they
Mm.
for sure they call me like they have this tracker, like you can track me all day long. I'm just gonna say like, hey, I'm not the one to be doing this test right here.
Mm.
I'm not gonna be paying any fine,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
and they've stopped calling me, and I might receive a letter, but I'm still not going to be paying anything. Like I should have done a test the first day, the seventh day. I haven't, because come on, guys, like
Yeah.
at some point in line we have to like pick up ourselves and you say, you know what, it's time to do something more empowering. And I'm not I'm not trying to justify myself anything, or trying to be a doctor, or trying to give myself this idea of like I'm invincible power, and have this magical powers. No, I'm just trying to be honest and say like, hey guys, there is a lot of truth out there. Pick up a book, pick up an essay, read some whatever doctors. There's everything is out there. I'm not gonna say it's right or wrong, but like do your research and make your own congruent decision. And this is my decision. And the thing is, we should have the ability for that decision. We are free, you know. And yeah, it's just a funny time we're living, for sure.
Yeah, man. And freedom is de facto self-empowering. Right?
Exactly.
That's what people don't maybe understand on a deep enough level, that this type of restrictions, it's just more, what is it, emphasized or more clear, but technically you've been restricted this entire time, right?
Yeah.
When you live a 9 to 5 life,
Yeah, totally. The
work in
restrictions
a
have been going
certain
on for
way.
a long time.
Exactly. You have been like limiting your freedoms like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Basically, you work in this confined space, you eat in this confined way, you live in this confined way, right? You like
Totally.
There's a like this funny thing where it was like, if you follow, what was it, like the advice of the social media, like the mainstream media, the government, you're gonna, and well, the financial newspapers or something, you're gonna be, what was it, like unhealthy, poor, and in fear, right? So
Yeah.
it's that type of thing. Like, yeah, it's just
true.
it's restrictive on the level of the soul or the psyche,
Yeah,
but
and
it's
that's what,
still restrictive.
yeah, and that's what you see, especially in the first lockdowns, how people were suddenly like waking up. And that's a funny thing. Like I said before, they're trying to bring all these rules and these restrictions, but what they're actually doing is waking people up more and more. And they're trying to counterbalance it by whatever vaccinations, all these things. It's like, it's too late, my friends. The power has already slipped away. You're trying to hide something, it's too late. We live in times where you cannot hide anything anymore. You can hide it on media or whatever you can try, but energetically you cannot hide shit. So it's too late.
The gig is almost up.
Yeah, and it's going to be probably a few funny years to come, but honestly, I see the world shifting in the better, totally, completely. This is one of those times that's going to be remembered forever, because this is a time where everything is going to be changing very soon, and there's other things that's going to be lined up for sure. And I'm just like, hey, let's enjoy the ride, you know.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah.
And like out of all the things that we've been talking about in this entire conversation, if you want to give people like a starting point, like this is okay, start with this one thing. If you want to change your life or change your way of life, what would you recommend?
From a practical perspective, I could say like, your belief in energy is everything, but it's a hard concept to grasp if you're not just getting yourself out there. So I would say the first thing to start is just to start. And a lot of people come to me like, hey, but not sure what I want to do. I have this option, this option. They have a whole list of options. The thing is, like, all roads lead to the same thing. And I've done so much in my life, but your life missions, you're really what you're drawn to. If you're being honest with yourself, learning to be honest with yourself, you always will be pulled to the same mission. And don't focus too much on how something manifests in your life. Just follow that main vision, and life will make it happen for you and will manifest it in the way that it's meant for you. Like, it's the process of life where we first feel like things are happening to us, then maybe more for us or by us, but eventually, the sooner the better, you'll come to a stage of life where you learn that things are happening through you, and you just let things flow. And you know, there's some bigger energy. I talk about the other side a lot, but for me, it's just like, there's a power out there that I truly believe in for myself as well, that is just working through me the whole time. And that is, it's the place where what I think I want most out of life, and whatever the universe, the consciousness wants from me, where they match. And a lot of people in the beginning, they live out of a fear because they think they want something and they push so hard against the other side. But if you let things happen, they come together, and it's where all the magic happens. That's what people are looking for. So the thing is, just start, try all these different things, and you will know once you will do it if it's good or not good for you. And you will make all the failures, all the mistakes, but the things, you just get started. That's the thing I still do today. I still have all these options, and every time it's like, oh, I try all of these, and this worked, this didn't, and they all go to the same way. The thing is, just start. It doesn't matter what relationship, what course, what book, what travel, what traveling, what land, what destination, what job. You will feel it once you'll do it, but you have to be willing to actually do it and throw yourself in the unknown. And you get more and more accustomed to your intuition, and you make the better choices more and more, and things will exponentially grow faster and faster and faster.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. And if I can add to that from my own experience, right, that pulling sensation, which I almost said, like, if you follow your own intuition, it's going to be really clear. But I felt that on numerous occasions, right? So the first thing that, when that really, I mean, I was already into movement and all this other stuff, so that was more of a necessity. And because it's one thing you should be doing on a biologically congruent level anyway. I never really experienced that type of a pull. It was actually Norway, like moving to Norway. That thing was stuck in my head for a year and a half. It was the only thing I could think about 24/7. And that's the clue, guys. That's the pull. If you can't stop thinking about it, you probably should go do it, right? It's not that hard.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that that's the final destination. It's just your first step towards where you need to be.
Exactly.
And that's
Stepping
the thing.
stones.
Like, that's also what I say so much time to my clients. You know what you want usually. You might be lacking some clarity here and there, but you know what brings out the fire in you. You hear that voice every single day talking to you when you wake up, when you go to bed. Every single day you have those desires. And it can be the most simplest thing. That the thing is, just start living them. And you don't know how to most of the time, but the thing is, you don't need to know how. You just get out there, and the universe, or whatever, yourself, will provide the tools along the way. And that's the thing. You live by learning. You go with the flow. You ride the wave as you just experience. Get out there, but you need to be willing to expand and willing to go to all the learnings. And exactly like you said, the pull, we hear it. Follow it, and then I'm here now. Wow, I'm actually living it. I'm enjoying it, and maybe I'm actually also. That's also maybe a good point to end with. Like, learn to allow it. Once you get there, learn to allow that. It's like it's become a part of you. You don't have to go back. You can keep expanding, but allow it to be a part of you. That vision,
Yeah, man, for sure. And for your coaching, or if they want to learn more about your coaching or get in touch with you, where can they find you?
So I think the best option is probably just my Instagram. People can send me a DM. That's the place where I probably will respond the most quick. So it's a liberating leader. My program is called Anatomy of the Avatar, which I would for sure love to dive in deeper for anybody who's interested. And I'm also launching probably a new website soon, all based on my program, with a separate Instagram page, all based around Anatomy of the Avatar. But for now, you can always follow me at Liberating Leader. So,
all right. The link will be in the description, so people will be able to connect. Well, this was a great chat, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Beautiful talk. Yeah, loved it.
And have a good day. See you soon.
Thank you too, bro.
Peace.
All the best.